Happy Monday and holiday to each and every one of you. Welcome to the very first show of Africa Good Morning for this month. We are broadcasting the news making headlines across Africa. My name is Aina Raiza Koyo alongside Glenora Shipura.
Now, yesterday was Workers' Day. The 1st of May is Workers' Day worldwide. Workers' Day is a celebration of laborers and the working class that is promoted by the International Labour Movement and occurs every year on May Day. Here is more on this.
Thank you for watching Africa Good Morning this morning. Now let's get into the news making headlines. Guinea to move to civilian rule in 3 years. The head of Guinea's military government has announced that the country will return to civilian rule after a 39-month transition period. Speaking on television, Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya said the proposal would now be put to Guinea's parliament. The announcement comes after the regional bloc of West African nation ECOWAS set last Monday as a deadline for the army to give its timeline or face immediate sanctions. The deadline was missed, but the junta asked for more time and said it was considering a transition period of between 8 to 52 months. On Saturday, Colonel Doumbouya said a 39-month period, 3 years and 3 months was a medium proposal. Guinea's National Transition Council, an 80-member body set up after the coup to act as a parliament, is also tasked with setting a date for the country's next election, but is yet to do so.
In our next story, Taliban Supreme Leader makes rare appearance to mark Eid al-Fitr. Afghanistan's Supreme Leader Hibatullah Akhundzada appeared for only the second time since to tell worshippers celebrating Eid al-Fitr that the Taliban had achieved freedom and security since seizing power last year. Flanked by security, Akhundzada spoke days after a powerful explosion ripped through a mosque in Kabul, killing more than 50 worshippers after Friday's prayers, the latest of a series of attacks on civilian targets in Afghanistan during Ramadan. Akhundzada delivered his brief address from one of the front rows of worshippers in Qadar without turning to face the crowd, according to social media posts. Taliban officials did not allow journalists to approach him. 2 helicopters hovered over the mosque for the 2-hour event. In October, he had visited the Darul Uloom Hakimiyya Mosque in Qadar, according to an audio recording circulated by Taliban social media accounts. Now, Akhundzada, believed to be in his 70s, has been the spiritual leader of the Taliban since 2016. He succeeded Mullah Akhtar Mansour, who was killed in a U.S. drone strike in Pakistan. His public profile has largely been limited to the release of messages during Islamic holidays, and Akhundzada is believed to spend most of his time in Qadar.
In our next story, South Africa's Jacob Zuma would do anything for Guptas, and this is according to the Zondo Commission. South Africa's former president Jacob Zuma would do anything that the wealthy Indian-born Gupta family of businessmen wanted him to do for them. Then, from early in his term, corruption investigators have concluded the commission investigating allegations of widespread corruption in South Africa during Zuma's 9 years in power, known as state capture, says the former president placed an interest of corruption associates ahead of his own country. Further, it says that the Gupta identified Zuma as someone whose character would be used against the people of South Africa to advance their own business interests. These scathing conclusions were revealed over more than 1,000 pages of his fourth part of the Commission's report released on Friday, which is led by South Africa's Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. Central to the Commission's investigation has been the claim that one family brought their way into the most influential organs of the state via Zuma.
In our next story, protesters face tear gas on third anniversary of sit-in killings. Sudanese security forces fired tear gas at crowds gathered in Khartoum on Saturday to rally against military rule and mark the third anniversary of the killing of scores of protesters. The crowds blocked a major road junction in the capital and laid out food to break their Ramadan fast. But just before sundown, officers began breaking up the rally and chased demonstrators into the streets, a Reuters reporter said. Now, posting on social media said people also gathered in the sites of Madani, Kosti, and Al-Abid, carrying posters with faces of some of the young men killed in 2019. Protests and unrest have continued to rock Sudan since months of mass demonstrations culminated in the overthrow of former President Omar al-Bashir in April 2019. On June 3rd that year, armed men charged pro-democracy demonstrators who were holding a sit-in outside the military headquarters in the center of the capital, demanding the army hand over rule to civilians after Bashir's ousting. Activist doctors said nearly 130 people were killed in that raid and the ensuing violence. Official tallies put the death count at 87. Sudanese police could not be reached for comment on Saturday, the third anniversary of the sit-in raid, according to the Islamic lunar calendar. Khartoum State Security Committee had on Friday called on protests to remain peaceful and blocked off central Khartoum. Military leaders have denied responsibility for the 2019 killings. A number of more junior officers are on trial over the deaths. Since the October coup, many of Bashir's former allies have been allowed to rejoin the civil service, while others have been freed from jail.
West African countries agree on a climate strategy. The leaders of the Community of West African States agreed on Friday on a regional strategy to deal with global warming for over the next 10 years. Members of the regional organization, in agreement with the European Union, plan to spend $294 billion over the next 10 years to meet the challenges of climate change. Between 2020 and 2030, we estimate the necessary expenditure to be brought to $294 billion. Sekou Sagari, the ECOWAS Commissioner of Agriculture, Environment and Water Resources, said at a press briefing in Accra on Friday. The strategy calls for the cooperation of regional institutions, the 15 member states of ECOWAS, their partners, and civil society actors. It also aims for a regional policy that is compatible with the Paris Climate Agreement. Now, the ECOWAS Commission led this procedure in 2020 through the European Commission-funded Global Climate Change Alliance Plus initiative. Coastal degradation and erosion are major challenges, particularly in West Africa, according to the annual State of Climate report in 2019. About 56% of the coast of Benin, Côte d'Ivoire, Senegal, and Togo are affected by erosion, a phenomenon that is set to increase.
Miners trapped inside a mine in Burkina Faso await rescue. It's a race against time in Burkina Faso to save 8 miners trapped inside a mine. The operation started on the 21st of April after the Pakao zinc mine was flooded. The miners are thought to be at a depth of 700 meters. The group includes 6 Burkinabe, 1 Zambian, and 1 Tanzanian. At least 4 mining companies are involved in the pumping work. The families, however, are beginning to lose hope given the slow pace of the operation. According to a local union representative, shelters inside the mine can withstand certain living conditions for a fortnight, such as water and oxygen. Food, however, remains an issue. The families of the miners have already appealed for international help.
All right, we'll be right back after the short commercial break with more news from Kenya. Stay with us.
Adam Tas is coming to Windhoek to help build a brighter future for education. Join us at the Sounds of Caring concert at Windhoek High School Vegkop on 20 and 21 May, where he will be performing with Von Arends and Rian Smith. Tickets cost 200 Namibian dollars and are available via eticket.my.na. All proceeds go towards the African Child Development Trust.
We are back with our story from Kenya. We African leaders pay respect to Kenya's former president Kibaki at a state funeral. African leaders paid their final respect to former Kenyan President Mwai Kibaki in a state funeral service on Friday. Kibaki, whose death was announced last Friday, served 2 terms from 2002 to 2013 as Kenya's 3rd president. He was 90 years old. Kibaki is widely known as a gentleman politician in a country where politics can turn violent. Noted both as a statesman and economist, Kibaki served Kenya in several positions for 5 decades, including as trade minister and vice president. He earned degrees from Uganda's Makerere University, attending the London School for Economics on a Commonwealth scholarship, and worked as a teacher before joining politics in the 1950s.
Hotel Rwanda hero's family files $400 million lawsuit. The family of Paul Rusesabagina, the subject of Oscar-nominated film Hotel Rwanda, have filed a $400 million lawsuit in the United States over his alleged abduction and torture. He was sentenced to 25 years for terrorism by a Rwandan court last year in what supporters called a sham trial. His family say the Rwandan government lured him from Texas, where he was living in exile, back to Rwanda. In a statement, Rusesabagina's family accused the Rwandan government and high-ranking officials of conspiring to facilitate and execute an elaborate plot to lure Rusesabagina from his home in St. Antonio to Rwanda, where he would be tortured and illegally detained for the remainder of his life. The statement added that $400 million sought in compensation will grow every day that Paul Rusesabagina is held in captivity. Another complaint was filed in Washington, D.C., the statement said, and has been served on the government of Rwanda, which has not yet commented publicly nor responded to the BBC's request for comment.
We move over to South Africa. Gauteng governments plan to use old mining land for cannabis. Don't panic, it's organic. This could soon be the Gauteng's government's motto regarding cannabis use for medical reasons. Just before the weekend, the department said it was aiming to unlock economic opportunities and job creation. It hopes to achieve this through cultivation and processing of cannabis and helps at an industrial level in Gauteng. The Gauteng government has offered to lease state-owned land as well as Tennessee in special economic zones in order to continue with this project. It has also suggested partnerships with the other Gauteng departments and collaborative funding. This suggestion is in hope of growing the cannabis industry in South Africa.
In our next story, do you want to become a millionaire but are not sure what to study? Studying these 6 university subjects will help. The latest African Wealth Report for 2022 that was published this week revealed that studying the following 6 university subjects would help you get on the road to riches. As revealed, high net worth individuals have law and finance qualifications. The report for 2022 detailed some of the fascinating fiscal trends in South Africa. The high net worth individuals are defined as having a net worth of at least $1 million US. The subjects are law, finance and accounting, mathematics and statistics, engineering, computer and information technology, medicine and science. So there you have it, all the information needed to get yourself that pot of gold.
All right, we'll be right back after the break to talk about marital rape, which is a hot topic in Namibia.
You're still watching Africa Good Morning. Now, as discussed before the break, rape within marriage became a hot discussion point in Namibia last week when conflicting opinions on the issue was raised in Parliament. Honorable Patient Masua spoke to Yana Marie Smith after the controversial parliamentary debate on marital rape earlier the week. Let's have a look.
It's very disheartening that someone in this house on an issue so important such as rape can say that you cannot deny your husband or you cannot deny your wife. Using the parliament to sanction rape, and that is making a mockery of rape victims, people that have been raped by their husbands or their wives. And we cannot make a mockery of rape victims by saying you cannot deny your husband sexual intercourse or your wife. You can.
Patience, wait until you get married.
Yeah. I will still have the same views when I'm married.
Then you will realize your husband's body is your body is your husband's body.
Certainly, what that incident highlighted to me in hindsight is that we have a very dangerous generational gap. It was particularly dangerous, and I think what it exposed is that generational divide. We are a generation where we speak up when something is wrong. Our parents and our grandparents, our forefathers didn't have those privileges, and I think there's that sort of there's that gap. There's just a misalignment between views of different generations. I was told, if you're unmarried, you have no business talking about marital affairs, and I realized, how many of our older people, our mothers, our grandmothers, have been violated in their marriages and they don't even know it because they feel like your human dignity is signed away on a marital contract. And that for me was problematic. I felt it necessary to address it then immediately. They were laughing at me. They were insulting me. They told me to shut up and go read my Bible. They told me these are big people's matters. I shouldn't be talking about big people's issues. How many people are being raped and they can't speak about it because the one person or the few people who can speak for them in Parliament are unmarried, and now they need to be silenced too. So it was really just a thing of we're all colleagues in this space. I won't be silenced on the basis that I'm unmarried. I won't be silenced on the basis that I'm young. I won't be silenced on the basis that people say that I don't read the Bible and I don't know that you give your body over to your man when you get married. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And we're not denying that, but we're saying don't weaponize the Bible. Don't justify rape. Rape is rape, regardless of the circumstances. We're talking about wives who haven't had an avenue to speak out against rape, who are now further silenced because a member of parliament said that your husband can't rape you. So when a woman or a man in their marriage feels violated, right? When they feel violated, it is justified in terms of the law, according to this member of parliament, that they've been violated. That's very dangerous. That is very, very dangerous. And it borders on really taking away and stripping away someone's right to bodily autonomy, to dignity. It's very harmful. And particularly in our context where rape is so rife, where women are already silenced by their families before they can speak up.
Namibia in 2000 already enacted one of the most progressive combating of rape acts across the world, in which already back then they recognized marital rape and it was criminalized. Now, more than 20 years later, you have again exposed very problematic beliefs and attitudes of a woman's position in a marriage. Is that maybe one of the problems why we can't effectively address the high rate of rape and gender-based violence in Namibia?
Very important that you raise that, because it brings to surface the cultural and legal mismatch that there is. So you can have all of these laws, right? But the laws can't work if the people don't make it work. And the people are informed by their cultural and traditional beliefs of what they feel is right? Those can be religious, those can be, cultural, in any sort of context, right? But the law needs the people to make it work. And when you have people who lay a rape charge, file a complaint of rape, but their family shames them to a point where they need to go withdraw this case, then it makes that act useless. Do you understand? Because we need to bring life to the laws that we make. I know that there's a higher sense of consciousness in all of us in that house. And we know that it is wrong to force yourself on anybody, regardless of the context. So these things, they poke significant holes in the pool of work that has been done over the last 20 years to progress in terms of women's rights in the workplace. If somebody is telling me to shut up on the basis that I'm a young, unmarried woman talking about rape, that pokes holes into the work that we've strived so hard for. But we must be relentless in this pursuit.
How do we change these underlying, very dangerous attitudes?
I think there's a lot of education that's needed on the principle of consent, that many of our parliamentarians, many of our MPs, even those in the Committee on Gender Affairs, don't understand, they don't grasp it. And that's because, number one, the MPs that you see now are not the MPs 4 years from now. That plays a significant role in how our laws progress, because people come from different homes, people come from different backgrounds. We're not talking about conjugal rights. We're talking about rape. And that education needs to happen, because I think it's ignorance, it is unawareness. And I don't blame anybody for the views that they have, but when your views encourage rape, then that's problematic, and then you need to be held accountable. So, and I think MPs need to be held to a higher standard. The parliament is such an important institution that dictates how humans act. And because of that, we must be held to a higher standard of conviction. We must be held to a higher standard of principle. And so we definitely sensitization, workshops, education on bodily autonomy. And I promise you, it would even help some of them.
Every day is a good day to find out what other African countries are getting up to. Today we travel to Zambia, where Master Mike Sichula has the news on the ground. Good morning, Mike. How are you? Well, I'm doing fantastic. I would like to ask you to kindly take your stories very shortly as you respond to us. Now, as a way of taking advantage of mineral wealth between the two countries, Zambia and the Democratic Republic of Congo, the two have signed an agreement to start up manufacturing electric batteries. Please tell us about this. All right, Mr. Sichula, it doesn't seem like we can hear you very properly, so we're going to take a short ad break and then we'll revert back to you. All right, we do apologize for those technical difficulties. Mr. Sichula, are you still with us? All right, it doesn't seem that Mr. Sichula is with us. Right now, we're going to go to the weather and see what is happening on that side.
This is Africa Good Morning, bringing you the latest news from across Africa. We now cross over to Zimbabwe, speaking to Talent. Good morning, Talent.
Good morning, Glenora. Good morning, Aina. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Talent, the government will soon announce a raft of measures to stabilize and defend the Zimbabwe dollar against emerging inflationary pressure, President Mnangagwa has said. Please extend on this story.
President Emerson Mnangagwa has said that government will soon announce a raft of measures to stabilize and defend the Zimbabwean dollar against emerging inflationary pressures, some of which are unwarranted as the economy is relatively in good health. He said that he recently convened a meeting with experts to map the way forward after a recent price hike of basic commodities and continued loss of value of the local currency. He said that it was worrying that while the country's economy was performing relatively better than its peers, the local unit remained volatile. For the past weeks, we have been experiencing price hikes in basic commodities, and we have also been experiencing inflation. So the president, they say that they're going to announce new measures to make sure that they they defend and try to stabilize the Zimbabwean dollar.
Now, Talent, I understand that the census has ended and that the results will be in 3 months' time. Can you tell us more about this?
The Zimbabwe National Statistic Agency has said that it will release the findings from the 2022 Zimbabwe Population and Housing Census that ended on Saturday in 3 months' time. However, a mop-up exercise will run for another week to cater for those who may have been omitted in the initial count. So the Zim stats are saying that they're going to release the results in 3 months' time as at the moment they are analyzing the data which is gathered by enumerators across the country. Zimbabwe conducts a census after every 10 years, and this year's census is the 5th census which the country has conducted since 1980.
All right, the government yesterday urged teachers to be patient while it addresses their salary demand and says that they cannot change their demands every time schools reopen.
So schools are reopening tomorrow in Zimbabwe, and teachers are already threatening to boycott and not attend lessons. They're saying that they want the government to review their packages, to review their salaries, because as it stands, they have been eroded by inflation. So they're saying that the money they're getting now is no longer viable and it can't cater for their needs. So the government has said that teachers have to be patient and they can't demand salary reviews every time schools open. When schools open for the first time, the government reviewed teachers' salaries, and now schools are opening tomorrow, and the same teachers are saying that they need a salary review. So government is saying that the teachers should be patient enough and they cannot demand salary reviews every time schools open.
Thank you so much for that. Now, I understand that civic society organizations, political parties, and the public in general have pleaded with the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission to extend its mobile voter registration blitz, which ended on on April 30th. Can you tell us more?
So the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission was, for the past month or so, was conducting mobile voter registration exercises. So the mobile voter registration exercise came to an end on Saturday, the 30th of April. And now civil societies and political parties and the general public, they're saying that, and the general public are saying that they should extend the mobile voter registration, as some of the people, they have not yet been registered to vote. So Zimbabwe is going to hold general elections next year in 2023. So most people, they are not registered to vote, and they're saying that the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission should extend the mobile voter registration exercise. And also there are cases whereby people are saying that they are trying to get their national documentation, their national IDs, because you can't vote without your national documentation, you can't vote without your national IDs. So they're saying that they should give people, the public, a leeway whereby they'll be able to go and collect and take their national documentation so that they'll be able to register to vote. So they are now saying that the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission should extend the mobile registration exercise.
All right, Talent, thank you very much for joining us on Africa Good Morning.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
All right, the Moroccan government is set to increase the minimum wage. More on that story when we come back with economic news. Welcome back to Africa Good Morning, and here is economic news. The Moroccan government is set to increase minimum wage. The Moroccan government has announced plans to increase the minimum wage for public servants by 16% and that of other workers by 10%. The 10% increase will be phased over 2 years, seeing a 5% increase in September 2022 and the other 5% jump a year later, according to the Morocco World News. The proposed increase formed part of a deal between the government, labor unions and employers federation, according to the Reuters news agency. The government wants to improve conditions for working people, Morocco World News reported. Citizens will also see family allowance increase for those with more than 3 children.
In our next story, Ghana is set to implement electronic levy on May 1st. All is now set for the implementation of Ghana's electronic transaction levy to kick off on the 1st of May, which was happened yesterday. Now, this comes after several criticism from a large portion of the Ghanaian population since its announcement in November 2021 by the country's finance minister. Some industry stakeholders have supported the levy, but others believe this would have a negative impact on digital payments and also affect the digitization journey of the Ghana. Now, the Commissioner General of the GRA, Dr. Usu Amoa, said the revenue target for the e-levy had been revised downwards to 4.5 Ghanaian billion dollars from the initial 6.9 billion Ghanaian dollars, following the reduction in the rate from 1.75 to 1.5% in the delay in the implementation. Now, according to the finance minister, the country's total digital transaction for 2020 were estimated to be over 81 billion US dollars compared to 12.5 billion US dollars in 2016. Ghana will not be the first African country to implement a levy on digital transactions across Africa. Some countries have failed, while others have become successful in the introduction of such a levy.
Progress made in KZN flood relief efforts. Cooperative Government and Traditional Affairs Minister Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma has noted progress made in assisting those affected by the recent floods in KwaZulu-Natal. The minister on Thursday visited the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Disaster Management Center and received updates from officials, mayor and MECs on the interventions unfolding in a number of communities. Dlamini Zuma thanked the officials for the good work being done to assist communities affected by the recent floods. Interventions and support include provision of shelter, which house of those who lost their homes due to the floods. The minister was briefed on the work done to stabilize the situation and assisting communities affected by the floods. The floods follows the devastation caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, which had profound effects on several spheres of society. Dlamini Zuma noted progress made by the various stakeholders directed at assisting by restoring and rebuilding the lives of those affected communities. The minister emphasized the needs for an elderly warning system, which should include community education on disaster risk prevention. She called for community education and awareness campaigns to be undertaken to capacitate communities to understand the various disaster risks. She called for targeted, coordinated efforts to be intensified to restore and rebuild lives.
The economic recovery in sub-Saharan Africa surprised on the upside in the second half of 2021, prompting a significant upward revision in last year's estimated growth from 3.7 to 4.5%. This year, however, that progress has been jeopardized by the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which has triggered a global economic shock that is hitting the region at a time when countries' policy space to respond to it is minimal to non-existent. Most notably, surging oil and food prices are straining the external and fiscal balances of commodity importing, and countries have increased food security concern in the region. Moreover, the shock compounds some of the region's most pressing policy challenges, including the COVID-19 pandemic, social and economic legacy, climate change, heightened security risk in the Sahel, and the ongoing tightening of monetary policy in the United States. Because of this, the growth momentum for the region has weakened this year, with economic activity expected to expand by 3.8%, while the economic recovery is projected to accelerate in 2023 to about 4% over the medium term. This pace is not enough to make up for the lost ground from the pandemic.
In Zimbabwe, Job Sikala mobilizes youth to defend Chinono's gold project as ZANU-PF threatens to seize their livestock. Citizen Coalition for Change Deputy Chairperson Job Sikala claimed Saturday to have mobilized scores of people to sleep at journalist and government critic Hopewell Chinono's Mureha home. The move follows threats by ruling ZANU-PF party youth led by Taurai Kadishaya to invade and forcibly take possession of parts of Chinono's livestock. Chinono runs a gold project at Maruhwa village near Marukete. According to his lawyer Beatrice Ntwetwa, the journalist is currently out of the country. Chinono has been under attack from government surrogate for lying into President Emmerson Mnangagwa's regime over its human rights record and failure to address social service challenges. He was this week forced to share receipts of the initial 13 goats he imported from South Africa to dispel allegations by the ZBC. Chinono said he had instructed his farm workers to comply with whatever ZANU-PF youth will demand of them. The ZANU-PF thug Taurai Kadishaya plans to loot my property on Sunday. I have instructed my workers not to fight with anyone. Let them take, said Chinono. His lawyers Beatrice Ntwetwa has since written to the police demanding they investigate the matter before the ZANU-PF youth invades the project.
And with that, we've wrapped up our economic news stories. Up next, the economic indicators.
Welcome back to Africa Good Morning. As always, Ari Gouwade is ready to bring us the latest sports news from around the globe. Good morning, Ari.
Yes, very good morning. Lots of sports happening around the globe, all over the world. And I'll start off with some rugby news. And it was in the Six Nations in England, or in Britain. It was the Six Nations Rugby for Women that was concluded. And there's the champions, that is England. They're the champions. That's one stage 2021. That's because of all the COVID regulations. They still backdated. But it's England that beat France by 24-12. That was in the final. Big win for England. And they also won the Grand Slam. Other results in the Six Nations for Women: Italy beat Wales by 10 points to 8, and Ireland beat Scotland 15-14. There's also action from the United Rugby Championship that took place on the weekend. That is the Sharks playing against Canoe. That was in Durban, and it was the Sharks that came out winners, 41 points to 21. And other results for Southern African interest is that the Sharks, or the Bulls, they won on Friday already, 29-17 against Glasgow of Scotland. And then the Stormers, they beat Leinster in Cape Town by 20 points to 13. They didn't score 4 tries. That's going to be significant in the last round games to determine for places number 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the playoffs. So that is some rugby news, United Rugby Championship.
All right. Now in golf, it was the Mexican Open on the PGA Tour and also the Catalonia tournament in Europe. Can you expand on this?
Yes, the golf, the Catalonia Open, that was heartbreak for Southern African Oliver Becker. He's from Stellenbosch. And that is firstly John Rahm. John Rahm won the Mexican Open. So that was, he led from the beginning. It was the leader in the first round. He's number 3 in the world. John Rahm came in with the last round of 69 for 17 under par. And he won by 1 shot over Tony Finau and Kurt Katayama. And then in the Catalonia tournament, that is Oliver Becker of Stellenbosch in Cape Town. He managed to played in the playoff, 6 playoff holes. That was against Spain's Adri Arnaud in his home country. But it was Arnaud that was too strong in the end. He won the 6th playoff hole to win the Catalonia Open in Spain.
All right, in soccer, the English Premier League continued.
Yes, it's hotting up, so to speak. It's business end of the competition, just 4 rounds to go. Manchester United and Manchester City and Liverpool, they're leading at the moment. The wins for them over the weekend, and they will fight it out for number 1 and 2. Liverpool beat Newcastle away by 1-0, and it was Manchester City that beat Leeds, struggling Leeds, by 4 goals to 0. Very important result lower down in relegation, that is in the blue, that is Everton. They beat Chelsea by 1 goal to 0. And that is for them still to try and fight and survive in the relegation zone. They're trying to beat Leeds and Burnley to stay out of the bottom 3. Burnley had a big win over the weekend as well, and away win to Watford 2-1. And then also a big result for Arsenal. Arsenal beat West Ham by 2-1, and that is for their fight to stay in the top 4 of the English Premier League.
Good news for us Arsenal supporters. Moving on, I understand that the Spanish Grand Prix also took place this weekend.
Yes, indeed. It's a big action. Spanish Grand Prix, also a big one, always a big one for MotoGP. That's the one Grand Prix that many visitors come with their motorbikes. They camp around the ground, and there's a big vibe there in Spain. And it was the Italian that won in the end. It was Francesco Bagnaini in his Ducati. He was the winner. And in second place was Spain's Fabio Quartararo. He's also the defending world champion. So he was in second place in his Yamaha. So it was lots of action, big action, very fast speeds, obviously, for them. So the African interest, it is Brad Binder of South Africa on his KTM that came in 10th position. That was in the Spanish Grand Prix over the weekend.
All right, tell us about what happened in the world of tennis.
Yes, in the world of tennis, there was 2 tournaments that I can talk about quickly. That was the men's tournament that was played in Munich. That is the BMW Open in Munich, and that is the Danish teenager. His name is Holger Rune, and nobody knew much about him before this tournament. He knocked out the number 1 seed Alexander Zverev of Germany in the first round. And everybody thought he's going to fall away, but in the end he won the tournament. He played against Dutchman Botic van der Zandschulp in the final, but unfortunately van der Zandschulp had to withdraw because of an injury. The score was 4-3 in the first set for Holger Rune. So that is a name we can remember. He's just a teenager. His name is Holger Rune. He's from Denmark, and he won the tournament, his first ATP tournament win. That was on clay. That was the BMW Open. And just briefly, the women's tournament is still continuing. That is the Madrid Open. That is Maria Sakkari. She's the number 4th seed of Greece, but she fell out. She lost in the round of 32, so she's out of the tournament. And also Naomi Osaka of Japan also lost. She is also out of the tournament. That tournament continues. Coco Gauff of the USA still continue to be in the running. So that's the sports news for today. Hope your team did well. Glad that Arsenal made you happy there in the studio. I'm sure that Ashwin is also going to be happy with that Arsenal win. And have a great day, everyone.
Yes, we'll definitely give him a call. Thank you so much, Ari. To stick around for highlights right after the break.
Adam Tas is coming to Windhoek to help build a brighter future for education. Join us at the Sounds of Caring concert at Windhoek High School Vekkop on 20 and 21 May, where he will be performing with Von Arends and Rian Smith. Tickets cost 200 Namibian dollars and are available via eticket.my.na. All proceeds go towards the African Child Development Trust.
Thank you very much for watching Africa Good Morning today. If you've missed our show, here are the highlights. Guinea to move to civilian rule in 3 years. Taliban Supreme Leader makes rare appearance to mark Eid al-Fitr. South Africa's Jacob Zuma would do anything for the Guptas, Zondo reports. Protesters face tear gas on 3rd anniversary of sit-in killings. Morocco government to increase the minimum wage. Ghana set to implement electronic levy on the 1st of May. And those have been our stories.
And with that, we've come to the end of our show. Thank you for joining us on this lovely Monday morning. Do remember that Africa Good Morning is repeated on our 1 Up 2 website and our DSTV channel 285 and our Gotv channel 94 between 8:30 and 9:30 a.m. every weekday. Now, if you have any comments regarding our show, do share them with us on our Twitter and Facebook pages. And if you happen to have any videos or photos of happenings in your parts of Africa, do share them with us and we'll gladly include them in our program. I am Glenora Shipura.
And I am Aina Raiza Koyo. From everyone here in studio, it's all our love, all our light. Happy holiday.